Hi guys, and welcome back to my course. In this video, we will talk about JSX. So let's start with what is JSX. Check out this code. It looks very much like HTML, but it's not HTML. It is called JSX and it is a syntax extension to JavaScript. It allows us to define React elements using syntax that looks very similar to HTML. It is used to define the look of the UI. Basically, just like you write HTML code to define the structure of your web page, you use JSX to define the structure of React components. So if this is the purpose of using JSX, why can't we simply use HTML? Well, it provides us with a lot more than just this. It couples the rendering logic with other UI logic, such as event handling, state changing, displaying data, etc., etc. Now, if you look at this code again, we have some curly braces in the JSX code. Inside these curly braces, you can write JavaScript expressions. In this line of code, we have used a variable for setting the paragraph text. Similarly, we can use a function, operator, and much more. Let's try some examples to understand it better. Say we wanted to create a user details card, which contains full name, age, and job. So as you can see here, my local server is running. And if you check my browser, the app is running in my browser. So coming back to the code, let's try cleaning it. Let's save it. So as you can see, everything is gone from the screen. So whatever you write inside the return statement of this function is shown in the web page. And when you save this file, the local server automatically updates your application in the browser. This automatic update feature of React is called hot reload. Okay, so let's try writing the code now. So for full name, we can use an H3. And inside the H3, we can simply do full name colon John Wick. For age, we can use a paragraph, say 28. And for job, we can have another paragraph, say gentleman. Let's save it. Let's check the browser. As you can see, we've got full name, age, and job rendered on our web page. Let's bring this here. Okay, so if I change this code, say instead of 28, I'll make it 32. Or instead of John Wick, I make it John Lark. And job, let's say anonymous. Let's save it. And as you can see, everything changes on the screen. So this is all static data. So whatever we're writing inside these tags are getting rendered on the screen. So let's try using some variables for displaying this data. So let's create a variable over here. Say const first name is equal to John. Another variable, say last name is equal to Wick. Another variable, say age equals to 28. And job is equal to gentleman. Okay, so we've got some variables ready, which hold the details of our user card. Now, how do we use them? So if you remember earlier in the video, I told you that we can use JavaScript expressions inside curly braces when we are working with JSX. So curly braces, we can simply call first name here. Let's save it. And as you can see, full name is now just John. Now we also want last name. So there are two options. We can do space and last name. So this gives us John Wick. Or another way would be we can simply concatenate here and say last name. We still get the same result. Or we can use template strings. So backticks, dollar, first name, space, dollar, last name. Let's save it. And as you can see, you still get the same result. Similarly, we can do it for age. So curly braces, and we can pass the variable here, which was age. As you can see, the age is 28. Similarly, we can do for the job as well. So as you can see, now all this data is coming from these variables. So if I change the values here, say Toto, Wolf, let's say that. So the full name is updated. Similarly, we can update the age. And similarly, we can update the job. So that's how we can use variables inside the JSX. We can also use functions. So let's say we had a function which returns full name and we wanted to show that on screen. So let's create a function, say constant get full name. We can use an arrow function here. We can pass two values, say first name, comma, last name. And what it does is it simply returns. We can use this template string over there. So it just returns first name space last name. Now to use this function, we can simply call it inside the curly braces, get full name. And to call it, we'll have to add parentheses as well. So let's say that. So it's giving us undefined because we haven't passed any value here. So we can simply pass our variables, say first name, last name. And as you can see, we're still getting the full name correctly. Now, because this is a single return statement, so we can also get rid of these return statement and the curly braces. So just a different syntax for arrow functions. And everything still works fine. Let's say we had an input field here. Let's save it. And as you can see, we got a box there. Now we can also add attributes just like you would add in HTML. So let's say placeholder equals to, we can give it a static value, say enter data. And as you can see, we get the placeholder in the input box. This data can also come from a variable. So let's say constant input placeholder, say enter your details. So instead of this normal string, we can use curly braces because now we're working with JavaScript expressions, and we can pass the variable here. And as you can see, now the input has enter your details. Okay, so just one thing to remember, when there are multiple words in the attribute name, it gets converted to camel casing, say autocomplete. So as you can see here, this is in camel casing. Now we can also store JSX in variables. So let's say we want this input element to be in a variable. Let's say details input box, and we can pass our JSX here. Now to use it, we can simply wrap it in curly braces and use the variable. So details input box. First, let's save it without the input box. So as you can see, there's no input box here. But now when I use it like this, in curly braces, we pass that variable which holds our JSX. It shows us our input box. Similarly, we can also access objects and arrays. Let's say we had an array here, say 1, 2, 3, 4, and we wanted to show some value here. Let's just say, so to access the array, we can simply do an array and the location, as simple as that. So now when I save it, we get 1. Similarly, if there was an object, let's say an object name, say Toto, and age, say 30. So we can also use the object here. So let's say for age, we wanted to use that object. So an object dot followed by the property name of that object, which is age. So let's save it. And as you can see, age gets updated to 30. So don't worry if this feels a bit overwhelming for you. In the coming videos, we will be working all the time with JSX because that's how you create components and React elements. Now, just one thing to remember, inside these curly braces, you can only pass the expression which generates some value by default. So you cannot have for loop inside, but you can have map statement because by default, for does not return a value, but map returns an array. So if I add curly braces here and I try to write a for loop, it gives me an error, expression expected. But instead of for loop, if I write an array dot map, there's no error here. Similarly, you cannot have if else, but you can use a ternary operator. So if I write if something here, so it gives me an error. But if I simply write, say, m array great at 0 greater than 0, question mark, say true, or else false. I save this, we get true printed over there. And that's all for today. I hope this gave you a better understanding of JSX, but if you have any doubts or queries, feel free to drop a comment below or reach out to me on Twitter. I'll add my Twitter handle in the description below. See you in the next video. Bye and take care.